Jim Carroll, Ralph Baber, psychology takeaway. Need a dose of the real, life's absurd, we know the deal. Did you hear? Don't let it get you down. Turn that frown upside down, down, upside.
Well, hi, this is Jim,
And Ralph.
and welcome to Psychology Takeaway, where we look at new and sometimes old issues in psychology and try to understand them from perhaps a more contemporary point of view. And today we're going to talk about something really old, right, Ralph?
We are. And what we're going to try and do, we've talked about this topic before, but we're going to try and give it a little more contemporary view, because there has been a lot of research in the last 3 or 4 years, and some of the new research is pretty interesting.
Okay.
So our old topic
is drumroll
sleeping.
Sleeping. Something
And
we all do, right?
we all do.
Unless we don't.
Unless we don't.
Yeah, right.
And some people have terrible insomnia. And as W.C. Fields said,
No, not that one again, Ralph.
insomnia, I know a good cure for that. Get plenty of sleep.
Yeah. No, we should do the psychology of W.C. Fields someday.
Someday, yes.
Yeah. Or perhaps look at other famous quotes on sleep or on dreams or on whatever.
Yeah.
Just do a whole show on that.
Well, when we get to dreams, which will be not today probably, but next broadcast,
Probably down the line.
down the line.
Who knows? 'Cause we want to talk about some of the sleep disorders too.
Yeah.
Which really plague people.
One of the things that we can think about is how dreaming can sometimes affect the way you sleep, how much you sleep, and for some people, dreaming doesn't seem to happen.
Uh-huh.
For example, I very, very seldom dream that I know about.
Correct, that you know of. Well, we'll talk about that because everybody dreams. In fact, most animals seem to go into a dream state.
Yeah.
So it might not be that you don't dream. It's that you don't recall your dreams. But
Yeah.
let's talk more about sleep and what we know. It used to be that you'd say, "Well, I slept. I had a good night's sleep. Gee, I wonder why I waste so much time sleeping. I don't need to sleep. You get
Well, the answer to that,
a third of your life is spent asleep, right, Ralph?
yeah. And so you say, okay, well, 24 hours a day, I sleep 8 hours, which is the healthy average for adults. Some people 7, some people 9, but healthy average is 8. So that's a third of the day.
Third of the 24-hour day, right?
24-hour day.
Yeah.
And then you say, okay, well, 8 hours, not much, third of the day. But then you say, okay, somebody lives to be 75. That's 25 years.
Uh-huh.
That's a big waste of time. Or is it?
Or is it? Well, we know now that sleep helps us to consolidate our memories. The things that we're thinking about and experiencing during the day come back at night, and they get stored somewhere in our brain as memory traces. But if we don't sleep, that memory consolidation doesn't seem to happen. It organizes learning. Now,
Okay.
you might say, can you learn during sleep? I don't think you can learn Spanish if somebody is playing a tape recorder.
Okay.
But the things that you've learned during the day get organized and sometimes sort of shifted around, moved around. And we'll talk about the guy who invented the periodic table when, back in the 18th century, I guess, 1800s, how the stuff that he was working on during the daytime became organized in a very recognizable way while he was sleeping. But we'll talk about that when we talk about dreams and creativity.
Okay. So sometimes people say, well, there are only two types of sleepers. There's the night owl and the early bird.
Okay, somebody who goes to bed early, someone who goes to bed late. Yeah.
Okay, so somebody who goes to bed, let's say, most nights they go to bed at 2 o'clock
In the afternoon?
in the morning.
Oh, okay.
So, they go through the whole evening. They're reading or on the computer or doing whatever till
Oops.
2 o'clock in the morning. And then they go to bed. And for most of them, they sleep reasonably well and to maybe 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning, or sometimes even 10 o'clock. And they say, well, I just can't sleep at night. And so I have to sleep in the morning,
Yeah.
through the morning.
Well, that's perfectly fine unless you have a job that requires you to punch in at 8 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
So you're going to sleep at 2. You're waking up to go to work
at 5.
at 5. And so you've got, that's 3 hours or so. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about sleep deprivation. 'Cause
Yeah,
This, if the night owl can, in fact, sleep until 10 o'clock, that's great. But most of us don't have that luxury.
yeah. And the other thing is then you say, okay, well, how about the early bird? Well, the early bird might go to bed at 9 o'clock at night,
Mm-hmm.
but they get up naturally at maybe 6 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And they get up happy and they're ready to face the day.
Happy? Give me some coffee.
Yeah. So, you say, okay, well, there's two types.
Mm-hmm.
But the research now has said that there's actually about 5 types.
I bet. Yeah. The more you look at something, the more you see the shades of meaning.
Yeah.
It's not autism, it's a spectrum of atypical disorders.
Yeah.
So the same thing, I think, would happen with sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, there are late owls who sleep for 3 hours, can get up and say, okay, I can go to work. They work all day, 7 to 3. They get off at 3 o'clock. They go home and they sleep for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So then they stay up until 2 in the morning
Yeah.
and the whole cycle goes again.
Yeah.
But they've slept 3 hours, quote, at night,
Mm-hmm.
but they then catch up with 3 or 4 hours in the day.
Okay, that's
A little more.
we can talk about that a little bit more. This catching up of sleep. My students here at Central Michigan University are chronically sleep deprived. I say, how many of you have sleep until noon on Saturday?
Everybody's hand goes up.
How many of you sleep until 1 on Saturday or Sunday? Half the class. How many of you sleep till 2 or 3? Half the class. Well, that's because they've been up, working on papers and things like that until 3 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week. And I did it as a college student. You probably did it also, Ralph.
Or do I dare to say that awful word?
Oh no,
Partying?
no. Our scholars are working academically.
Yes.
Well, maybe partying one day a week.
Yeah. But the thing is that, whatever you're doing, if you get sleep deprived, you tend to, at the opportunity, let's say a weekend for a lot of people,
Trying to catch up.
try to catch up.
Yeah.
No,
It doesn't work.
it doesn't work.
No.
So why doesn't it work?
Well, okay, Ralph, why doesn't it work?
Well, I think the answer is there's only so much reintegration of experience that can happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't happen in the sort of, quote, regular time, when you're catching up in those 2 days. Some of it happens, but not enough of it.
Okay. Yeah.
So you don't integrate the stuff that you have studied for the 2 days you were preparing for your calculus exam the way you should.
Okay. Yeah.
So then what happens is 2 years later, when you run into a engineering calculus problem, you say, I should know how to do this. And you can't quite recall it.
Even we've talked about memory and we've talked about learning, but research indicates that actually sleep helps us to repair, tissue damage. In the typical day, we injure ourselves a lot, not bruising or anything like that, but we use our bodies and our bodies get depleted. Well, when we sleep, we're in a situation where we can, kind of rebuild those muscles and those neural connections. If we're up for 21 hours a day, 20 hours a day, we don't get that opportunity for the rebuilding. And hormones are kind of interesting too. Sleep tends to regulate our hormones. We're on this 24-hour hormonal cycle, and sleep and wakefulness, help us to get those hormones back in
balance. Yeah. Now, one of the things that is an interesting question out of research, and I have not come across any solid information on this, but we know that when women are going into menopause, their hormone balance changes.
Mm-hmm.
Does that change their sleep pattern, or does changes in their sleep pattern because of menopause change their hormone balance? What's the happening there? And I've never seen any research that tried to identify that topic.
Yeah. There are correlations there, but I guess you're right. We don't know what the causation, is. But we've slept as human beings for 10,000 years?
50,000 maybe.
50,000, 300, 3 million, I don't know. But it's been a regular kind of thing. And, you mentioned it might be going to sleep when the sun goes down, waking up when the sun comes back up again. But a lot of time we've spent sleeping, but we haven't really asked from a scientific point of view what is going on during that 8-hour period. And it wasn't until William Dement, I think he was a psychologist at Stanford, I believe, was pretty much the first sleep researcher to actually kind of chronologically look at the patterns of sleep. And so he says that we go through about 5 or 6 patterns of sleep each night. First of all, we're awake, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Okay, our brain waves are going along like this. Then we get drowsy. We get into a relaxed state, which we now call alpha.
Okay.
Our brain waves slow down. We're pretty much still aware of the world around us. It's kind of like being in a meditative state. Then you go into a little deeper state called theta. And with theta, there are a couple of sub-states also. But brain waves slowly go down again, down to about, maybe 8 cycles per second. Then we go into a really deep sleep, which we call delta. And the brain waves are down at 4 or so. We don't want them to go any lower than that because you're dead if they do. So it takes about, 90 minutes or so to get down to this really deep sleep. And we think that this deep sleep is the sleep that does really the work, the heavy lifting. That's the sleep that does really help us to consolidate, to get rid of the tissue problems, to regulate hormones. And then, we go back up to almost an awakening period where we have beta activity. The individual is truly asleep. It's called paradoxical sleep, in that it looks, from your brainwaves point of view, it looks like you're awake, but your body is asleep. And
Okay.
that's when we dream.
Okay.
Now,
So is that sometimes called REM sleep?
that is REM sleep, and the other sleep is non-REM sleep.
Okay. So this paradoxical sleep or REM sleep is when we dream. Now, you know, I said earlier on that to the best of my knowledge, I don't or very seldom dream.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I have been told from the research is that the fact that I say I very seldom dream doesn't mean I don't dream. It means that I don't recall my dreams.
Right. Yeah. So, what we would do to test you out, Ralph, if we wanted to, put you to bed, and probably in a room where someone could monitor you, could look at what you're doing, and say I'm there. Okay, so you're asleep and you've got a cot there, and you're sleeping, and I'm watching you. Kind of spooky, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm watching you. You close your eyes, and even though Carol is in the room, you do manage to fall asleep, and you go through these stages. Okay, and then you get down to stage 4, the delta stage, and then whoop, you go back up to REM. Now, if I were to wake you up during that period of time, right then, you probably would report that you're dreaming.
Okay.
Now, how would I know when that was? Remember REM?
REM
Rapid eye movement.
movement.
I would watch your eyes, weird as it looks like. I guess, in a more modern technological society, we could probably put a little electrodes near your eyes. And when normally your eyes, awake or sleeping, go up and down like this. We have saccadic movements of the eyes. But with rapid eye movement, you start to scan, and a trained observer can look and they can see somebody who's got their eyes closed, but their vision is going back and forth, or the eyeballs are going back and forth, as if they're looking at something. And that's
Okay.
the clue for dreaming. And that's what Demmett was going through, studying the sleep cycle, and he was looking at rapid eye movement, and he couldn't figure out what was going on. So he woke the person up.
Okay.
What's going on? I'm dreaming. Okay, so Demmett, being a scientist, did it again later on. After a REM period, woke the same person up. What's going on? Nothing. Okay, so REM and dreaming are pretty much closely associated. Now, those other stages that I mentioned could have some dreaming going on. Theta,
Okay.
there's some theta dreams. There's some kind of hypnagogic dreams in the alpha state, but it's the REM state where we get, the serious dreams. The dreams that Shakespeare said, wrap the ravels, something.
Knit up the raveled sleeve of care.
Care. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shakespeare had a handle on this long before we were able to put somebody into a sleep study.
Now, Jim, one of the interesting things to me about this set of things that we know now about dreaming is there are people who genuinely really believe that the dreams they have are predictive dreams.
We talked to somebody in the coffee shop today. He said, he had predictive dreams. One predictive dream was that he was going to get arrested and sent to prison, and 3 days later he was arrested and sent to prison. I mean, that's quite a predictive dream. We're going to talk more about dreams, Ralph. We're going to talk about a special kind of dream, and that's the nightmare, because he told us about a nightmare dream also, a recurring nightmare.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about the nightmare that I have too, the recurring nightmare of killing Emily.
Okay.
Okay, so, but we're going to save that because we still haven't unpacked everything in sleep. One of the things that, we've talked about sleep is this normal experience, but for a lot of people, maybe a third of the population, sleep is not a normal experience. Some people have a great deal of difficulty getting to sleep. Some people have a great deal of difficulty staying asleep. and some people have a great deal of difficulty waking up. So we've got a whole variety of sleep disturbances or sleep disorders that we've only really begun to look at in the last a few years. If the purpose of sleep is emotional regulation, the question could be, what happens when we are dysregulated from a sleep point of view? Does that dysregulate our emotions? If we have difficulty sleeping, or we wake up at several times during the night, do we ever get into that really deep delta sleep? And those are questions that really nobody had much of a clue about, Shakespeare withstanding, until Demmett began to do his work, where he's actually he was staying up late watching people sleep. So, you ready to go into that one next time?
Yeah, and we'll talk about maybe you mentioned a mouse study that we haven't got to. We should do that next time.
Yeah, it's a good study of young sleep versus old sleep.
Okay.
Well, I think I'm going to go and take a nap, Ralph.
I can understand that, Jim. And my wife says that I'm a champion napper. I can sleep on a medium soft rock. I think she's right.
So,
but in the meantime,
we're going to say, keep your stick on the ice.
Because we're all in this
Together.